This is the Global Broadcasting Service, serving remote outposts since 1928.
Hi, everyone. Welcome aboard the Walt Disney World Express monorail.
Caramba, we have something really big for you today.
Welcome, foolish mortals.
Now then, hang on to them hats and glasses, because this here's the wildest ride in the wilderness.
This is the DBC Pod with Phil Schoen and Jason Dodge. Everyone, welcome to this week's pod. This is a show for the week of June 26, 2023. It's officially summer, everybody, even though it's felt like summer for my here on the East Coast, where I think we've been on a drought. I don't know if it's officially a drought, but my grass is all dead and now is alive because it's not raining. So it's officially summer, Phil. How are you doing today?
Doing all right. Yeah, my kids just started summer break, so day one, and they already are complaining they're bored. So, you know, it's exciting.
So my kids have been off for a week, and already my wife is ready to send them to military school or anything else that can get them out of the house for an extended period of time and toss in all the rain that we're getting, and it's been dreadful. So anyway, on this week's show, there's some big change. No, I want to say they're big changes, but they cause a lot of discussion around the Twitter sphere because I guess everybody's just starving for Disney information. Changes to Genie Plus and how they're being charged. I see you edited this, Phil's existential crisis of how this affects his upcoming trip. And if you've been in Discord and following it along, there was some pretty hefty discussion based on this, and I just sat there just shaking my head. I'm like, oh, Phil. And of course, we're gonna his trip, your trip is 60 days out. So we're gonna kind of talk about that. You're gonna plan through it. This is gonna be a therapy session for you. And we've got some top three and our takes. Our takes mostly being on reasons to park hop, and top three traps you fall into when you want to do more than you should at Walt Disney World. Which is, I was thinking about that because I knew this was going to happen. It's getting closer and closer to your vacation, and the vacation in your vacation is slowly dwindling. So we're going to hopefully rescue you. I guess I feel bad. It shouldn't be rescuing you, Phil, because you have to have fun the way you want to have fun, right? There's no wrong way to do it, but I'm still going to try to rescue you. That being said, there are some things in the news, Phil. So what's going on in our Disney World this week?
Yeah, we'll cover a couple of quick things first before getting into the meat of the topic about Genie Plus changes. The first one, I had just added this in here. It's not something we cover very often, but Royal Caribbean Cruise Line announced their plans for their latest ship, which will be launching next July, which is Utopia of the Seas. And I thought it was interesting to people that might be listening to this because they're going to put it out of Port Canaveral. And it's going to be doing 3 and 4 day cruises that leave from there and include a stop at their private island, which sounds exactly like the itinerary Disney Cruise Line does currently with the Wish, basically where they put their latest ship. So it's, they were competing, Icon of the Sea was announced before this, and that they're marketing that as the ultimate family vacation. And now they're putting this other new ship basically competing directly against Disney's newest ship. So I just thought it was interesting. And, not to say that, it's a new ship, it's not going to be cheap, but, I know when I priced out Royal Caribbean's newest ship versus Disney's newest ship, 4 days was cheaper than 7 days on Disney. So, that for considerably cheaper price, you can still get a nice cruise. And with people, kind of watching the budgets, and we talk about how Disney's pricing keeps going up and up and up. I just thought this could be another option people might consider of okay, well, let's maybe scale back our Disney vacation only 3 or 4 days and then do a 3 or 4 day cruise and maybe save some money that way. So I thought it was interesting for people who kind of do the Orlando area vacation, another option out there.
No, that makes sense. And you told me before we started recording, it's 60-ish% of the cost.
Royal Caribbean's pricing varies a lot. Like the newer ships are going to be closer, but it's still going to be quite a bit cheaper. Their older ships are a lot cheaper, but it's definitely considerably less than doing a Disney Cruise Line for, in some cases for some good reasons. But
I think the second question, or the larger question at stake, is Disney is basically being attacked by all sides at this point, right? So DCL is being attacked and taken advantage of. And then, of course, Universal with Epic Universe is going to take a major hit. And for those that listen to I know both of us here listen to the show every single week. Len Testa's show with Jim Hill talked about, large. How do I don't know how to put this. So larger portions of the park are they're slowing, I guess, with their thing. They talked about the discounts that they're offering later in the year, which is like what 30 to 40%, I think.
Yep.
Which is
Yeah.
only equivalent to 2019 pricing. So it's
Yeah.
not like it's like, hey, you're saving money you're going back to pre-COVID times. So the point being is Disney's not doing enough, I don't think, to attack what's coming after them, and it's going to be very interesting to see what happens with the next year and a half. That's my only point.
Yeah, to date, they definitely have not been proactive. I mean, the big things they're still finishing Journey of Water, and then they have Tiana's Bayou Adventure, just a redo. Nothing else officially in the docket. So I think this Destination D23 coming up in a few months is going to be really interesting. Do they go kind of on attack mode and say, here's a whole bunch of concrete things we do, or are they still going to kind of sit back and not really worry about things?
I mean, we can go on and on about this. I don't think they're anything. They could announce like a fifth gate. It doesn't really make a difference because nothing what they announce is going to happen within the next 4 years anyway.
Right.
And in order to build up crowds, I think Disney's going to have to dig deeper with some of their pricing. So we'll see. Question for another day.
Speaking of doing updates at the parks, the next little news item was Joe Rohde, famed Imagineer, who obviously everyone knows designed Animal Kingdom, and one of the key things there that he also designed was Expedition Everest. And somebody tweeted at him basically saying about the rumor that a lot of people kind of knew or understood out there was that, to fix the Yeti, which is the big animatronic in Expedition Everest, which hasn't worked past like about the first year of its operation, and it's now just in disco Yeti mode, saying that to fix it, you'd basically have to take out a whole big portion of the side of the mountain, and it would be down for a long time. It would be a huge amount of money. And Joe Rohde responded and saying that rumor is not true, that you wouldn't necessarily have to take out a huge side of the mountain. But what he said is the issue is complex, as there's interface between finance, operations, marketing, design, timing, engineering, narrative, and I guess guest satisfaction. And all of those need to line up to make a viable solution. And he ends with, there are solutions, there are no opportunities. So basically saying it could be fixed, but all those other elements about finance and the operations, taking out the capacity from the ride and just, what that would mean for guest satisfaction. And I guess also how drastically would it improve guest satisfaction if it's working? Just isn't making it work right now.
So, I mean, I think you could take a couple of these different things. Finance, is it worth the money to do it? From an ops, design, timing, and engineering point of view, can they do it? Yes, but what do you take away from the park? The park is very deficient when it comes to rides anyway. So if Dinoland is down, and then what we expect from the Blue Sky stuff from D23 to be announced, a lot of configuration from Moana and Zootopia or whatever comes in Dinosaur, and then you take away Expedition Everest, half that park is basically gone except for the Nemo show. Like there's nothing over in that third of the park quadrant. I don't know what you call it, but you got to be able to, you're basically shutting down the flow of the park with what else is going on. So I don't foresee this happening anytime soon. I don't think until there's like the dinosaur area is completely revamped. There is an addition to Pandora and there's an additional another land somewhere else. Then they can think about taking this down because they need it in that park.
Yep. No, I fully agree with that. It's definitely not until they make a bunch of other additions to that. One other angle I wanted to get your thoughts is how much, obviously there'd be huge interest in it and demand when it first reopens, but how much more does having the Yeti work create as far as demand for this attraction? And in that, I'm asking, could they turn it back into an individual Lightning Lane attraction if the Yeti was working?
Absolutely not. No one cares. No one barely notices it, right? You're going by it so fast. It's a really awesome thing. But if you're like the once in a lifetime, twice in a lifetime type of guest, you're like, there's a kind of a cool Yeti there, but then it's gone in a flash, right? It's not like the Shaman in Navi River Journey where you kind of slowly float by and you get to take it in and admire the craftsmanship and awesomeness of it. It's like, it's gone. And you're just like, okay, that's great.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I I was fortunate enough that we were there in the first year of operation for the ride, and I got to ride it while the Yeti was in full motion, and it was really cool. But it doesn't like change the overall experience, and I think that's also kind of what plays a role here, where you're not drastically changing the guest experience. Is it justifiable to spend that much money on it when you're not really going to change the dynamic of guest demand or anything like that?
Because the ride itself is pretty awesome, right? That
Yeah.
doesn't change. The queue is phenomenal, and the storytelling around it is still there. I mean, all these things are A+. I don't think does the Yeti get you to A++? I
Right.
mean, I don't know. I don't think so.
And I'm just thinking, we're listing all the things that Disney should spend money on. I think this just gets further and further down the list. Like it's a wonderful nice to have, but it's not a need right now.
They should have thought of a better way to maintain it when they built the darn thing. So
yeah,
I guess they messed up. Oh, well.
I'll forgive them.
Yes.
The last news item, which also will flow into our topic, though, is that Disney announced there would be changes coming to Genie Plus, and actually, by the time you're listening to this, it would have gone into effect. So we'll see kind of what the impact of this is. It goes into effect on Tuesday, June 27th, and the big thing that is happening is that they are going to park pricing specific for Genie Plus. And basically what that means is that rather than right now when you log in the morning, you find out here's what the price of Genie Plus is for that day, because they already have the dynamic pricing where it changes each day and you don't really know what it is until you log in that day. Now what's happened is when you wake up, you'll find out what price it is for each individual park. It's going to be different. So for the example they gave, and I guess this is what it's going to be on June 27th, because that's the example they gave. At Magic Kingdom, Genie Plus will cost you $27. At Epcot, it'll be $18. At Hollywood Studios, it'll be $24. And on Animal Kingdom, it will be only $16. And just to give this point of comparison, I looked on June 25th, and it was a flat $23, no matter which park you were visiting. If you have park hoppers and want to be able to use Genie Plus at multiple parks, they will keep that the same as the Magic Kingdom price. So doesn't matter which parks you're going to, you pay kind of the max of any individual park. And so that would be $27. So some of the parks will be a little bit more than what it would be if it was a flat price, and some will be a little bit lower. So I don't know if you want to give your thoughts on this, Jason, first before we kind of get into it.
I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could take this. You can take it from a cumulative point of view of what more layers they're adding, because you had an initial reaction on Twitter to when Scott Gustin kind of posted a lot of the stuff, and you're talking about more and more complex. But when you take a step back and you look at this just in a vacuum, and you can't really look at this in a vacuum, it's better for the consumer, right? I mean, just based off those prices, I imagine they're going to kind of hold within that ratio a little bit, kind of like Magic Kingdom and multi-park passes are going to be the normal price, quote unquote normal, which is in their upper 20s. Animal Kingdom and Epcot are going to be in the lower end of the spectrum because they're least useful in those parks. And I think Disney's seeing that. So ultimately, you're going to be saving money based off of this, right? If you just take it on the surface. And I think you agree with me on that, correct? Right? Like
potentially
in a vacuum, if this maintains, you're saving money, right? My issue, I have several issues with this because I'm taking everything in your Walt Disney World vacation into context. So looking forward, there's some also pros and cons. So they're decoupling the price of Genie Plus away from all the parks and sticking it into individual. So what does this mean? Is they can jack up Magic Kingdom through the roof, but then point to that, like, let's say Magic Kingdom on June 27th is $27. Let's say next week it's $40. Oh, it's $40. Oh, but Animal Kingdom's still $15 or it's still $18. They can decouple that, right? So they can jack some up, but keep others less and feel internally okay with that. Now, that being said, the more expensive things are, the less people to get it, the better product it is. So they can do those type of things. They can potentially sell out Magic Kingdom without, quote unquote, selling out other parks where they can still make money, which you'll probably never sell at Magic Kingdom anyway. But they have that ability. So I like it that they're decoupling it, allowing it for. I just hope that what they do is say, okay, there is a threshold for Magic Kingdom and multi-park pass. We're going to keep it in those upper bounds, things that we've seen over the last year, and keep it that way. But they're hoping that because we're allowing it at cheaper at other parks, that's just going to make more people want to buy it, right? So that's the kind of altruistic view, Phil, because I think you've said somewhere that like I'm not buying a $27 Genie Plus at Animal Kingdom, but at half the price at $14 or $16, I might consider it,
Yep.
right? So I mean, like we're going to talk about this more in your planning aspect of things, but if they keep it that way, I think this is a win-win for everybody, right? Just from a top level view.
Yep. Yeah,
Do you
I agree.
agree with that?
I think overall it is better. There obviously are some scenarios where people will get kind of the short end of the stick. And I think the big thing is that top end for Magic Kingdom in the multi-park, they feel they can go higher than they've ever gotten to. You know, they got, what was it, upper 30s or near 40. And I think they couldn't push that more because nobody's going to pay $40 for Genie Plus at Animal Kingdom right now. Because there's only like a handful of rides you can even use it on. But Christmas week, spring break, people will pay 40, people will pay 50. I don't know, will people pay 70 for it at Magic Kingdom if you're constantly skipping hour-long, 2-hour-long lines? And so I think that's maybe the slightly negative take is this will free them to really potentially increase it at Magic Kingdom. So if you're a family that can only travel at those expensive times and does Magic Kingdom more often or gets park hoppers, this is kind of a negative for you versus the other parks kind of pulling down the top end for Magic Kingdom. But I think for overall, it's better because at least even when it climbs up more for Magic Kingdom, it still kind of feels okay because you're like, I'm getting more use out of it.
Yep.
Whereas now for Animal Kingdom or Epcot, like you said, I wouldn't pay $40 for it, but I might pay $18 on those days or something like that. So obviously we'll have to see over time what the actual pricing is, but kind of matching the pricing with the value in that park, I think sort of just feels a little bit better than kind of overpaying just because it's all at one price.
I put on WDW Magic Forums. People were talking about value of money and that sort of thing. I'm going to try to find my post here, and I might not be able to do it. So, here it is. So I used an example on I think it was the 24th, yesterday. Actually, so this would be on, what did I say? Monday. So yesterday, Sunday. Magic Park ticket was $159. It was open for 13 hours. So basically, if you're there all day, you're spending $12.23 an hour to be in that park, right? Genie Plus was $23 yesterday. And using some touring plan math that they did back in March, you save on a medium term day, I think it was like 4 to 6 crowd level for Magic Kingdom. You're saving approximately, oh gosh, what was it? It was like 260 something minutes a day per Genie Plus if you use it the right way. 259 minutes, excuse me. So that comes out to be 4.32 hours if you get Genie Plus and you use it appropriately. So when you do all the math, it basically comes down to, okay, the park costs $12.23 an hour to be there, but Genie Plus, it's giving you back 4 hours in savings of just standing in line. And that comes down to about $5.32 an hour.
Yeah.
So you are being at the park at a discounted rate with Genie Plus.
Right.
I don't know if that makes sense to everybody out there, but basically you're getting park time at a 60% discounted rate, assuming you know how to use Genie Plus at the same time.
Yep. No, I think that makes sense, and that it's a lot easier to get those savings at something like Magic Kingdom, so that's why you can justify a higher 100% point. Yep.
Okay, so now I want to elevate this conversation to the next level where we're having a context of everything you have to do at Walt Disney World, right? For the last 2 years, 3 years, we've been talking about how Disney World is becoming more complicated, more nickel and diming, more options you have to make on a daily basis. After both of us have had, this will be your second big trip with Genie Plus, right?
Correct. Yeah, December was the first one.
Yep. So you've had December in your upcoming trip. I've had July or June and December last year. And we use the same terms all the time: project management, managing expectations, and all this other type of stuff. So now what you're doing in the morning, you're adding more decision-making pressure at 7:00 in the morning when you're at Walt Disney World. And I think this is a bad way to go. In a vacuum, you're signing up for hoppers, you're signing up for your reservation, or you're just going to whatever park that you want to go. You know what park you're going to that day. Most people know I'm going to the Magic Kingdom today. They're not waking up and playing bus roulette or anything else like that, right? And you're waking up and you know you're going to buy Magic Kingdom. You know you're going to do. You have hoppers, so you're definitely buying the multi-park pass, whatever. That decision is already made. However, what is happening now is you're waking up and you're deciding, do I buy Genie Plus or not? You're having the decision-making process by seeing a $18 purchase and now a $27 purchase, and you're second-guessing yourself.
Yep.
You have to now make the decision, do I just get it for Animal Kingdom, that I'm going to Animal Kingdom in the morning and I'm hopping to Hollywood Studios? Do I get the multi-park pass or do I just buy the morning one? Even though you might have made that decision 3 months prior, like this is what I'm going to do, like you did. As you get closer, you start second-guessing yourself. And I guarantee, Phil, no matter what decisions we make for you tonight, you're going to change them multiple times until your trip, and you're also going to be changing them, or at least second-guessing them the morning.
Yeah, I think that's the key word, is second-guessing.
So you have all these decision-making things where now you're doing Genie Plus. What parks do I get? Do I actually really want to buy this? Because you don't know what the prices are going to be until that morning of. And then not only that, you have to make the decisions on virtual queue, when you have to make it, where you have to make it, which park you're going to make it, and your individual lightning lanes. You're now spending money on either single park or multi-park. You're spending money on individual lightning lanes. You're worrying about your virtual queue, and you have not had your first cup of coffee yet unless you're waking up much earlier than I am when you're at a Disney World vacation. Now, what does this do to you from a psychological point of view? You might think, and in vacuum, what's hitting a couple buttons on an app? It's really fairly easy to do. Like, there's no stress on like how to do things, right? You wake up, you set your alarm, you hit a couple buttons, you go back to sleep. However, there is a psychological or stress level cost of every single time you have to make a decision anywhere, whether it's at work, at home, what you want to eat for dinner, what you're doing that day on vacation. And it comes to a point where you just don't want to make decisions anymore and you just want to be. And when Disney's already asked you to spend $100 per person, $60 per person, $200-$300 per family at 7 o'clock in the morning, and you haven't even eaten breakfast yet, there's going to be a problem, because now you're not spending money. You're second guessing dinner reservations. You're second guessing whether or not you're buying that stuffy at the park, or the extra poncho, or getting a churro. Like, all those things start adding up. We're like, you're already like, all right, Disney got my money for the day. I'm not spending anything else. You're already looking how to save money while you're on a Disney vacation, and it shouldn't be that way. And we've gone from 2019 where you drop your bags off at the airport, at your home airport, and they show up at your door and you've got your fast passes and everything else set, and you're just there to have fun, to like every single day, do I need to buy this, shop for this, do this, and you're not out of bed yet. And I think that's going to be the major problem. Is more decision-making points, more dollars shown in your face, more options you have to press, more buttons you have to press. And as you're buying I know you don't have to buy Genie Plus exactly at 7 a.m., but you wake up a little bit before, you're already thinking about money, you're getting grumpy.
Yep.
That is my rant. And I don't think Disney realizes, I don't think all these people are talking to each other, right? I think there's probably some people that are deciding like, we have all these decisions to make by 7 o'clock, but the executives, again, are not living the daily life of a Disney World vacationer, or the people that are making decisions, spending $300 on their family every single day in the morning is not a big deal for them because they make millions of dollars, right? It's not that impactful to them. And I'm worried that we're going to see worse before it gets better, unless this is a temporary fix. And then they kind of, starting, October or 2024, everything becomes easier. Yeah, talking about it becoming easier.
They did talk about that, and that's another thing that was a little unusual about the timing of this. Although I'm assuming they're trying to get this in prior to the July 4th week, which is why it came out now. But yeah, they previously announced not too long ago that starting in January, they were going to look at ways to make Genie Plus simpler, and they've learned, from feedback from people that you want to be able to pre-book and stuff like that. And then this just seems like a step in the wrong direction by adding a layer of complexity.
And I don't think it's complexity. I think that's the wrong word to use, and I think that's a trap for everybody to go, oh, it's just pressing buttons on an app, right? And then you have to start explaining yourself. I don't think folks out there that are anti-Genie Plus or anti-more money or anti-nickel and diming, which we all are to a certain degree in a specific flavor of that conversation. I don't think you have to use complexity because it's not complex. I think we have to start learning to use the terms. It's more decisions that we have to make on a daily basis just to enjoy Disney the way we did 4 years ago with zero decisions.
No, that's fair. I would say it's an additional decision that needs to be made, and an additional one that carries a financial implication.
Absolutely, because it's not complicated. Disney vacations have always been complicated, but not complicated. I don't want to have to be pulling out my credit card and spending $300.
And that's what I shared in the past.
Second I wake up.
I fully agree with you. Planning a Disney trip has been complicated for a long time, but now it's, if anything, there's more decisions to be made. It's more financially driven. It's more day of your trip. And I think people are like, I'm willing to spend more, but that should make my experience better and simpler. And instead it's like charging you more for putting more, and it still puts more burden back on you to do more of this planning during your vacation and spending more money and stuff.
I'm like super surprised that we're going in the reverse order, right?
Yeah.
Because we've always been able to buy ticket packages for our stay. You just get 7 tickets. You go use them wherever you want, or whatever the average price is. And then they said, okay, for day tickets, they're now variable pricing, right? So we did the opposite, right? You can still buy a whole bunch, but why can't we do that with Genie Plus? Why can't we say, I want to buy, for every day I have my ticket, I want to tack on Genie Plus, like we were able to do a year ago, right? I just want to buy Genie Plus for everything.
Almost
you
like you add on
rate,
like park hoppers or whatever. You just
absolutely,
yeah.
So now I've taken that decision out of my pocket. I've spent the money already, even if it is $30 a day or $20 a day, whatever it might be.
It's just all bundled together.
It's done. Maybe it's a free offering. Maybe it's part of a discount. Maybe it's not. Maybe it's just a tack on. I've spent the money already. That's one less decision I have to make in the morning, because I guarantee you the next time I go down, I'm not buying Genie Plus every single day. But the morning of, when I'm saying, all right, I'm not spending $120 something today. I'm not spending $120 today. I wake up at 7:01. Oh, you know what? Screw it. I'm going to go and spend $120 today. And then I'm going to get it. I'm going to be super excited. I'm planning. I love Disney planning. And then by 11 o'clock, it's Animal Kingdom. I'm like, I have nothing left to do with this. And I could have used that $100 to go buy really cool lunch or some souvenirs or something else that's more lasting.
Yeah.
And I'm not feeling cheated, I guess, out of that like FOMO type of thing.
Yeah. No, I fully agree. Or even if, I'm fully aware, I'm planning to buy it for Magic Kingdom, and all the research shows it should be about $27 a day. What if you wake up that morning and it's $35? And now it's like, well, I already committed. I'm going to get it. That's what our plans are around. But you're kind of already grumpy
Disney
because you spent more, like more than you thought you'd have to or whatever.
So before we get to today's topic, which is your upcoming trip, and we're going to keep talking about this, but more of a specific nature.
Yeah.
I think Disney needs to be very careful, because bookings are soft.
Yep.
We've had cast members either anonymously on Twitter or people in Discord saying like the level of crowds is not sustainable, and that they like being busy throughout the day, and they don't want to see people's hours being taken away or staff reductions or whatever kind of shenanigans. They need to get more people in the parks. They're not going to do it when you have to at these costs at this moment. And it's just not sustainable, in my opinion. And Disney needs to take away decisions you have to make and start making them for you, but not at an additional cost. They should come included. And I feel like a broken record when it comes to a lot of these things, because we've been talking about them for about 3 years. So that being said, Phil, you're about to give Disney World a whole bunch of your money.
Yeah. First, I had two quick comments I wanted to share. First, though, one to your point about like spending money here and not elsewhere. And I know last week we talked about add-ons and stuff like that. I think we're starting to see that. There was a tweet going around that there was a sign out in Magic Kingdom that there was walk-in availability for Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, which you just never see. And I think that's a side effect of this, because if I wake up and spent $150 on Genie Plus for my family, I'm not also going to spend $150 for my daughter to go to Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique or my son to go there or whatever. Most people don't have unlimited budgets, and if you're spending one place, you have to cut it elsewhere. And I think that's we're starting to really see the side effects of that.
Oh, and then this is what I'm talking about from Len's podcast today. His sister was on, I believe it was his sister that was on property, and she got a MDE notification pop up said, "We have availability at restaurants. Come on in." And she apparently there was availability at like almost every single restaurant on property to go get dinner.
Yeah.
I've never seen that before.
Yeah. Somebody else I saw said they were just randomly checking like July and like everything's open. I mean, maybe not every hour of, but you can get pretty much anything you want for July.
Be our guest, 6 p.m. Why not? Come on in.
And the last point, I guess, is a little bit of humble bragging, but we sometimes do know what we talk about. Then this ties into our social media feed at the DBC Pod on Twitter on November 15th, 2022. I had tweeted out, this was after they announced the variable pricing for Genie, say, I wonder if they will get to park-specific Genie Plus pricing, thinking they could charge more for Magic Kingdom than the other parks. And later that day, Scott Gustin sent me a message with that, basically saying maybe bookmark this tweet. So
yeah, well, bookmarked. Well done.
So sometimes we get things right. So
yes,
we get a lot of things wrong. So when we get them right, I want to point it out.
That's it.
But yeah, reminder of our social media accounts as mentioned. We're on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube, all at the DBC Pod, and of course our Discord server, which was jumping the day this news broke out.
Oh gosh, I logged in like I was out for the day. It was like you have 5,000 unread messages, and I'm like, okay, what happened today? Which like completely surprised because it's not a major change, right? Like it's not a price hike. It's just like things could be kind of cheaper, and then everybody just absolutely hated it because of all the reasons. But it's funny.
And speaking of Discord, did want to wish a warm welcome to new member Sean, the shop teacher. So
welcome.
Thanks for coming, Sean, and please join in. So our topic is sort of playing off this, but it's also good timing because on Wednesday, the 28th is my official 60-day mark. And so I'll be waking up nice and early to make my ADRs and other reservations that I want for my trip in the end of August. So I had posted in Discord sort of a question I had about my plans, because there's a number of things we're trying to accomplish with our trip with, not having early mornings after late evenings. And then, and of course I have the spreadsheet. And when you would kind of say like, okay, well, I don't want to do Magic Kingdom on a day there's a party because I'd have to leave early. I don't want to do Epcot the day there's extra evening out, blah, blah, blah. All of a sudden it kind of narrows down which days you can do which parks, and then overlaying crowd calendars from touring plans and stuff like that.
Which I'm a big believer. You never use crowd calendars to dictate where you go, in my opinion, unless it's a very long vacation, like 2 weeks or something else like that.
Okay. I kind of just use it as like a guide, not I have to pick the lowest day, but just kind of like another data point. So maybe I'll just walk through. Here is currently our plan that I'm going to do. So we land on Sunday, the 27th at around just before noon. So we have most of that day available to us. We don't have a park plan for that. One of the main ADRs I'm hoping to get is for that evening is that I'm hoping to get storybook dining at Artist Point, and plan is to call it a relative early evening because we have the travel and stuff like that.
You're staying at Riverside, right?
We're staying at Port Orleans Riverside, yes.
Yep.
And one other thing I did book today is we decided we weren't sure of our ground transportation from MCO. We booked with a new, limo type service called Gear Fusion that just started this year, but is getting really good reviews, and their rates are quite a bit cheaper than other options. So
hopefully they're still in business.
Yes. So we'll see how that goes. I can report back on that. So we do have a car service lined up to bring us from the airport to Port Orleans Riverside. So Monday is planning for Magic Kingdom. Starting early, probably going to do a midday break and then be there late for Happily Ever After and all that sort of stuff.
Have you really done true midday breaks before?
In August,
like
we have.
Dining or whatever? Okay.
Yeah. So we'll see how it is, because they did also update the hours, and they're not super long. They're, everything was, we had the predicted hours, and everything was basically cut by an hour, either opening later or ending earlier. So we'll see, but we are planning on taking midday breaks and stuff like that, but that's the plan now. And I think this will come to our, I think one of our over under our top 3 things that probably relates to this. Yeah. So then obviously that'll be a late night. Tuesday is when we have scheduled the Halloween party, so we can sleep in after the late night and kind of just do things at the resort and stuff like that.
Are you planning on going in earliest possible time to take full advantage of your hours?
I think most likely, yeah, we can get in at 4.
Smart.
I mean, whether we're right at 4 or around there, but I mean, that's definitely
Roughly.
the plan. So, but we don't have any major plans for before that. So we can relax, pool time,
Yeah,
all that sort of
long
stuff.
day in Magic Kingdom. You got a day of sleep, so that's I'm with you on this. If you're spending the money at the parties, in my opinion, I think you're picking the right party. I mean, this is the only one I've ever done, but like it's got an awesome parade, and I think you'll have fun with it.
So obviously that'll be a late night. Party goes to midnight. So Wednesday has always been kind of the biggest one. What do we do? Because it's a late night. What do we do in the early morning? And I've kind of gone back and forth between doing Epcot and Hollywood Studios, and the other one would be Friday, based on kind of what days they can fit in. Okay. So I was thinking originally we had Epcot here. We wanted to avoid Epcot on a Friday during Food and Wine Festival. It's also Labor Day weekend. Kind of stay away from that. And it just, I think there's a chance that there could be an after hours party at Hollywood Studios that day. Right now, they're not, the schedule ends, but they could be adding them in. So that was the plan. But then I was like, we were thinking for Hollywood Studios of getting Genie Plus and not rope dropping it and just stacking for later. So I was like, well, maybe that would work better for after the party because then we could sleep in, just stack. We don't have to do rope drop.
Sure.
I think this is the big debate I had with on Discord was, should we do that? What should we do the day after the party, Epcot or Hollywood Studios? I think for now we're planning to keep it as Epcot because in a vacuum, that would be our preference to avoid the Friday. And this is where, if I can stick to this, is we're going to try to be kind of free flowing and sort of see how are we feeling.
Yep.
Are we able to get up and get going and rope dropping Epcot? Great. If not, and I check in, and this is where the Genie Plus change might get more money, or Disney might get more money for me, is that if we're dragging and I log in and the Genie Plus for Epcot's only $14 or something like that, I might just pull the trigger and get it, even if it only saves us lines on a handful of rides. This way we can sleep in a little bit and not have to rope drop Epcot.
So right now, currently, basically, what you did say was your Thursday's Animal Kingdom.
Thursday's Animal Kingdom, and then Friday will be Hollywood Studios.
So you're basically going to do a normal Animal Kingdom. You go in whenever you feel like it, and you're there to like mid-afternoon-ish.
Yeah,
to late
that's
afternoon.
That's exactly our plan,
right?
Is to start as early as we can get there, and then probably leave 4-ish or something. Whenever we want to leave, and then we still have kind of an early evening that we can maybe get to bed early and then be ready for rope drop the next day.
Do some nighttime swimming or something. Have a good time at the resort.
And now that's
relax, right?
That's another area where I was talking to my wife. Maybe we'll show some flexibility to see how we're doing. If Genie Plus is cheaper or crowds are really low, maybe we will do something that Thursday evening, like go over to the Poly and watch fireworks from there, then sleep in and do the Genie Plus at Hollywood Studios anyway. So we're trying to be go with the flow a little bit, but we'll see.
I think you're doing a good job. You're laying out trees of decisions you have to make.
Yeah.
Like we could do this, or this, but at least you have a menu of things to choose from. Other than like, what do you want to do now? And then inevitably you spend an hour making decisions. It's too late to do anything.
Exactly.
So going back and forth between, the Epcot DHS conversation. So you have to, like, anytime I'm a big proponent now of doing Hollywood Studios as a full blown, nothing in the morning, stack until night, and let it rip, right? Whether going in at noon, 1 o'clock, or going in at 4 o'clock, whatever you're feeling that day. My issue here, or my question for you is, how much time do you actually want to spend at Epcot? Because it's obviously your favorite park. You said that plenty of times. Everybody knows that. Will you feel cheated if you go into Epcot at like 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock and just spend 5 hours in the park versus 12? Like, is that something you're okay with? Like, is that in the back of your mind? Like, I need to be at Epcot a certain amount of time. Yeah. That's my first question.
Yeah. So I think, again, these are longer days. We want to be there till the end, watch Epcot forever and stuff like that. So we're either going to, if we're up for it, rope drop and try to get in, use that early entry for a couple rides. One of the other ADRs we're hoping to get is a breakfast at Garden Grill. We're targeting a later one, like 10:30 to kind of be like, okay, we have our morning rush. Or if we don't rope drop, then we'll get there in time for the breakfast.
So you've got the night before that Wednesday, you've got the party. When's the party go to? Is that 12 or 1 o'clock?
To 12 midnight.
12. So rope drop's going to be tough for your family unless you're troopers, right? Like I've only been able to pull off a late night, early morning with
right, exactly
like once. And again, we were talking about this after our December trips, like the vacation, man. That's the dream.
And that's why we're not going to force it. If the kids are up and ready to go, we'll do it. But if it's like we need to sleep in, we'll sleep in. So we're not going to book anything before like 10:30.
I think that's where your mistake is, right?
Okay.
You could be up and ready to go and do it, but you're going to be worn down in a couple hours. Like you'll have like your excitement, you're ready to go, and you're not gonna be able to go the distance for the whole day.
Well, if we rope drop, I appreciated the Hercules reference. Very good. But no, if we rope drop it, we're definitely doing a midday break. We're not doing open to close.
You're gonna have to.
Yeah, those are the two options. We either sleep in a little or we do a midday break. We're not doing open to close.
I think what you have to do is, if you're okay with the duration at a park like Epcot, I'm not doing rope drop. You have to say, I'm not doing rope drop at Epcot, right? So I think the way you have it now, avoiding Epcot on a Friday is the way to go.
Yep.
Right. So I think your cadence of parks and where you're going each day is perfect. I think what you need to do is with your Epcot in the morning is dreadful, right? It's just everybody racing for Frozen Remy's and Test Track. That's it. A lot of the booths are still closed. The entertainment's not out, and it's a lot of the same rides you've been doing forever. And you were there 6 months ago.
Absolutely, and that is definitely playing a factor. That we're like, we kind of did almost everything we wanted to in December. So if we don't get to something, we don't get to something.
And so I think going into it, you have to say, we are not doing Epcot in the morning. We are taking that break because you will have been only in bed for 5 hours. Like assuming you stay to the end of the party, which I hope you do because you're paying good money for it, right? You're done at 12. You're not getting back into bed at Riverside until 1 o'clock. Right,
that's at the earliest, I would say.
Everybody's leaving at 12, so everybody's waiting for buses.
Yep.
So let's call 30 minutes waiting for a bus, 15 to 25 minutes to get to the bus stop, depending on where you are in the resort. 5-minute walk from the bus to the room, and all of a sudden, from midnight to now, it's already 45-ish minutes or so.
Yep.
That's not even including getting changed, washing your face, all this other stuff, getting ready for bed and into bed, lights out, and your body's kind of ready to go. It's going to be 1:30.
Yep.
Do you really want to wake up? This is now Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3 days into your trip now where you're on 5 hours of sleep?
Yep. No, I hear you. I mean, that's why we were debating switching Hollywood Studios because we were planning on, going later there. So that was kind of the impetus for the discussion.
So the only way I would switch it is if you really need to be at Epcot the full day and you're not willing to put up with the crowds at Food and Wine.
Yep.
That's the only way I can see you doing
no, I'm pretty sure we're going to keep it as is, and I suspect we'll sleep in and not rope drop Epcot, and we'll probably drop for Genie Plus at Epcot and just get a couple rides.
It's going to be cheap enough. I think that's money well spent if it's at a reduced cost.
Yeah.
I think what you should do, and Garden Grill or whatever, like a brunch, like you slow roll into like a good meal in Epcot.
That's the plan.
Topolino's or something in the area. You slow roll your day. We get up. Everybody takes showers. No one's particularly rushed. You in your own head of a Disney planner is not like, we need to be at rope drop at 4-7, blah, 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 and like to get our max value out of our whole day. Like you're not doing the Disney planner like panic mode of like getting 10 minutes before rope drop in there so you can get a spot and all this other stuff, right? You're not doing that. You're like, I just got to be somewhere at 10 o'clock to get a cup of coffee and have a nice meal with my family.
That's the plan.
Ease into the day, right?
That's 100% the plan.
And I think if you stick to that, not like we're gonna wake up and see how we are, because you're gonna wake up and you're like, let's go, and then by noon you're gonna be like, crud, I think I should have slept in a extra hour, right?
No, that's a fair point.
I think you need to plan it so you're setting your own internal expectations of not doing this. So when you wake up, you're not giving yourself the option to go nuts again and overdo things, right?
Yep.
And that's what I have. I had a conversation with my wife. We were taking a walk today, and I said, I was saying this before the show. It's like, what would you do if you had 2 months at Walt Disney World? How would you do things? And it kind of bled into like, I would like to do this, 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 and this. And I don't want to be rushed. And be like, you know what? Even if we're there for only 5 days versus 10 weeks or whatever it is, I want to do it this way. And it's a lot of breaks and not rushing and all this other stuff. So I think you have to set your own expectations for that, so you don't force yourself to do it. Because it's just like the Genie Plus argument that you had, or revelation, I guess you had back in December. It's like, okay, I don't want to do it, but all of a sudden, once you have the tools in your hand, you're like, I can get 13 lightning lanes today.
Yeah.
I can get 20. Like you start going nuts. And I think what you're going to enjoy is Thursday. If your family's way into going to the pool and just lounging, just getting back to the pool at like 6 o'clock. Maybe you grab food from the cafeteria, you bring it out to the pool, the lights are on, and you just kind of eat. The kids swim, or you just kind of hang out, you have a beer. But then you have you're still in the bubble, you're still feeling Disney, and you're not running, you're not waiting on lines, you're not waiting for, and you just have I've got a whole day ahead of me tomorrow. And that's at Hollywood Studios. And you can kind of talk about your day with the wife and the kids. Like, what do you want to do tomorrow? And I got that feeling because we did that our Animal Kingdom day back in December. And I'm like, you mean I can just stay by the pool and have a beer and relax? And feels like a Disney vacation. You can, right? Like both of us get completely out of control when it comes to these things, right? And as much as I shuddered when my wife said, I only want to do half days at the parks every single day, whether it's a half day at night or half day in the morning. I'm like, no, we have to do this and this and this. And I'm like, we don't have to do this. Right. And I know there's plenty of people that say no, you don't have to do full days at the parks. What's wrong with you guys? You guys go there every 6 months. You're like, chill. But I think the way you have it set up, and as long as you build in your own expectations of doing half day at Hollywood Studios, half day at Epcot, I think the way you have it right now, don't second guess it. And I think the only caveat to the Genie Plus changes, bringing it back to that, is that you now have the ability, because I think Hollywood Studios definitely worth buying it for Hollywood Studios, definitely worth it buying at Magic Kingdom, totally not worth it buying it for your Animal Kingdom day.
Right.
But if Epcot is cheap enough where it's just like, okay, it's another $100 or whatever it is, then I think it's totally worth it because you can skip Remy. It's like basically a free lightning lane for Remy's, right?
Yep.
And I think...
Yeah, and I've actually been starting to track things, and even by the time you'd get the second one, there's still availability for Frozen. And so we would get at least 2 of the big rides set if we bought it. So
I think that's worth it, especially if you're starting late in the day. You can push back Remy's once you grab it at 7 a.m. and that type of thing. So I think that's the only thing that is better with Disney's changes is the cheaper Epcot, because Epcot's not worth it at $20-something, but it's worth it at $15, $17, whatever it might be.
Yep. So I think those are the plans. I think we're all settled until Disney changes something. Like all of a sudden Guardians changes to being standby, and now we feel like we have to rope drop Epcot to get in line for Guardians.
No, you'll just pay the money for the individual lightning.
Yeah.
And call it a day. I think
it'll be fine.
I don't think you should rope drop Epcot after a party. You're going to be miserable the whole day. Because you and I do this parks the same way. If you and I just had a vacation, just the two of us, we went down, we would be in the parks from the minute before it opens.
Yeah.
Doing a podcast in the morning. Okay, what do you want to do right now? Oh, let's do a podcast recording. And we're sitting there and we'll be zombies by day 3 if we had a 3-day trip. So I think the way you have it where you're forcing yourself to take a break is the healthy way to do it.
Yes.
And I hope that you stick to this, because I would love your trip report where you compare it to the relaxed version of your vacation versus your December trip where it was action packed and things were going off the hook all over the place. I can't wait if that becomes a contrast as a crazy park planner like myself. What is that contrast in your brain? And does that affect your future planning and how you view a Disney World vacation? Because it affected me.
Yep.
So I can't wait.
So, and maybe I'll just end it with, as mentioned, ADR Day is coming up on Wednesday. Already talked about the two, really the two main ADRs that we're trying to get are Storybook Dining and Garden Girl Breakfast. Beyond that, we are talking about my wife and I doing a lunch at Tiffin's on our Animal Kingdom Day, like kind of having like a date lunch. Now that my oldest is old enough to watch the kids, we could get a couple hours away from them for that.
Where is she watching the kids? At the park?
In the park, yeah. In the park.
You're allowing that, huh? She'll be what, 14?
She'll be 14 and a half, yeah. So last trip we let her go off by herself. So this trip I think we'll let her have with the kids. We figure in the park is safe. They'll get in line for Kali River in the middle of the day, and it should be fine. So
I'm just thinking my oldest is 10. Like that thought of that terrifies me to do that. But 4 years makes it massive.
Yeah, it's a big difference. I wouldn't at 10 years old either. I wouldn't let my 11-year-old by himself. But
yeah.
And the only other things we're thinking of doing is I haven't done Ogas in a while, so thinking about getting that. And then my son, for his souvenir, he wants to build another droid, so I would be reserving that. So we're definitely trying to keep things fairly minimal. And again, this extra cost, extra Genie Plus, that's probably making me less motivated to book more table service dining. So
I mean, I think Storybook Dining is going to be expensive.
Yeah, that's kind of the big one. Yeah,
very good though, so it might be worth the cost from what everybody's
I figure
saying.
It's worth at least doing once. I mean, I don't know if it's probably not an every trip thing, but we haven't done it yet, so we're kind of intrigued. So that'll be kind of be our big special meal.
I think Garden Grill is your only other sit down meal that's like
with the whole family. Yeah,
but I think that's good because it's not ridiculously expensive for breakfast,
right?
So it should be fine. And I think the only other more expensive thing is your droid making experience. To me, that's like, oh, you built one already. It's done. But if that's what he wants to do, good for you. Get that done. All right, let's. Are we done with your trip planning?
Yes.
I
guess next week I can report out, and I'll let you know all the 17 changes I've made. But
I think we'll recap at the 30-day mark and how much has changed since this episode in like 4 weeks from now.
Yeah, it
sounds
be
great. We're going to move to our takes because we're basically almost at the end of the show, but we're going to do our takes. And I want to put this one in here because we were talking about the Genie Plus changes. Mm-hmm. Everybody's going nuts on the WDW Magic forums. If you peruse that, like, oh, this is so complicated. I love all the choices. So it's like, if you're going to park hop, you're obviously going to pick the multi-park pass right off the bat. Like, it's boom, boom, you're done. So I was thinking about this. Okay, why do people buy hoppers? Because the majority of people don't buy hoppers. So what are the reasons to park hop? Why should you park hop other than the obvious, like, oh, I can do all the parks that I want to do? Like, why are you spending money on extra money on park hoppers? So we're going to start with the overrated reason to buy park hoppers. And for me, I'll go first. And this is just rolling right off the things that I've just been talking about for the last 30 minutes is the overrated reason is to get more done. I think what happens if your only motivation is to see as much as you possibly can, that's just going to exhaust you. And ultimately, you're going to spend more time in line, less time enjoying the environment and stuff like that. And it's just way too much. The only caveat is if you're there for like only 1 or 2 days and you just want a taste of all the parks, obviously park hoppers is the way to go. And it's fine. And usually that's somebody that's been here quite a bit and they just kind of want to get around a little bit and whatever. But if you're here for a week-long trip and you've got days at all the different parks, park hoppers might, being able to get more done is completely overrated in my opinion. What is your overrated?
Yeah, so my overrated is similar, but I went with the angle of that it's easy to use in the sense that people think like, oh, we'll do this park in the morning, we'll do Animal Kingdom and then we'll hop over to Magic Kingdom and then we'll hop over to Epcot. And I guess it's underrating the travel time. The time it takes to get from park to park, the logistics aspect. So it's probably more underrating that versus overrating anything. But like the idea that it's really easy to just go from place to place to place and no big deal. And there's no stress with the travel or anything like that. So it's kind of similar to yours in that you'll just be able to do all this millions of things and blah, blah, blah. But it's sort of not taking into account the travel time.
Yeah. Always put in at least an hour minimum to get from one park to the next.
Yep.
My properly rated one is I like this a lot. It's hard to execute properly, and it's kind of antithesis of what I gave for overrated. But spending the morning in the park and dinner in another, and this is more like the reasoning that you're there. Maybe you go to the Magic Kingdom in the morning, you ride a couple rides, you go back to your resort, maybe hop on the pool, but then you want to go to a restaurant somewhere at Epcot. And being able to do that without a hopper, obviously you can't do it.
Right.
But with a hopper, you can make that easy decision to go to some park for some dinner type of thing. And I think that's people really like being able to go in and out of the parks to experience certain things. This is generally more of an experienced Walt Disney World vacationer to do this. But if you are a first or second timer and you're looking to go, think about instead of having to hop all over the place and constantly going, but maybe it's the vacation and the vacation, right? The dinner is really just going for dinner, not like budget rides and dinner. It's like just walking in for dinner, maybe getting dessert, walk around a little bit, do a stroll, and then go back. So I think that's properly rated. What is yours, Phil? Unless you have a comment.
So I'll just cover mine because it's kind of similar. It's the idea of it gives you more flexibility for your day, whether it's because of meals or just park turns out to be way more crowded than you were expecting, or you got more done than you were thinking. And I would put the caveat, it's especially relevant if you are staying at a resort that's close to one of the parks. Mm-hmm. So whether, say, like an Epcot area, or perhaps if you're somewhere on the Skyliner, because I'm thinking about it for like my trip at Port Orleans Riverside, if we take a midday break, the travel time to get back, like say we start at Magic Kingdom, the travel time to get back to Magic Kingdom or a different park's almost the same. Whereas if we're staying at, say, Beach Club, and we do Magic Kingdom in the morning, it's way quicker to then say, let's just hop over to Epcot because it's right there.
Unless you're on a Skyliner too, by the way.
Yeah, or if you're on, I mentioned that too. If you're on a Skyliner and you want to hop over to Hollywood Studios or something like that, so it's kind of with the caveat depending on if you're at one of those locations, then I think it gives you a lot more flexibility to just kind of do what you said, like let's just go over to Epcot and kind of chill for the evening and that sort of thing. Whereas I think if you're not that close to one of those, then it doesn't really make that big a difference because the travel time's like the same.
If you're older with grown kids and you're going just with a spouse, or you're young and you're just going with friends or whatever it might be, or you just love Disney, you don't have kids yet, or you don't, whatever, right? You are a party of two and you're there to have fun, and you don't have to rely on a bunch of screaming kids to dictate where you go. One of my things that I was able to minorly accomplish when I was with just my wife last summer is to be able to go into Hollywood Studios, grab a margarita, kind of just do some people watching, relax a little bit. I think when we went, we had a light lane for the Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway because we just managed to schedule up. But as soon as we were in there for about an hour, and then we just hopped to Epcot for food and wine and just enjoyed our evening, right? We were able to get a taste of a park. And to me, that was absolutely wonderful. There was no stress about anything. You just went, grabbed a drink, grabbed a snack, like, Art, hop on the Skyliner right over to Epcot. And it was easy. I think that is where a hopper is worth it, when you're not trying to do like a massive touring plan, but you're just kind of hanging out. It's really great. All right, so my underrated reason to park hop is taking advantage of a stacking strategy. We talked about this a lot last year. You mentioned this in your trip planning segment for today's show, and it works phenomenally well with Hollywood Studios. You could, if you do it the right way, with modifying times, waking up at 7 a.m. and keeping on it throughout the day, you can get every major attraction at that park from like 3 or 4 o'clock to close, depending on hours, and have them just go like, it's a whirlwind, like you're running from, but you can get all of it done in an evening. And I think that's underrated reason for hopping, because you could go have fun at Epcot in the morning or at Animal Kingdom and do nothing with Genie Plus, but you hop over to Hollywood Studios and you can do that whole park in a single day. So if you're big fans of Magic Kingdom, let's say you're only there for 4 days, you want to spend 2 full days in Magic Kingdom to fully explore it and have a good time, you want to see every park, you can do an Epcot day, but then your other days, Animal Kingdom and Hollywood Studios, I think they're perfectly paired with each other, and you can do both parks all in one day. I think that is the underrated reason to hop, if just for that one day. And unfortunately, you can't just buy one hopper ticket. You have to buy all, and it goes to waste.
And my underrated is kind of for a similar strategy, but I titled this Bringing Animal Kingdom More into Play. And the main reason I said that is, like, let's say you're going for a full week. You have 7 days of park tickets. If you can only do one park a day, unless you really love that park, and maybe this applies to a different park for you, but let's take Animal Kingdom, for example, you're probably not doing that more than one day, right? Because there's only so much to see in there, and there's no nighttime show. And so, like, you can't really devote 2 full days to it. But if you have hoppers, you could do a couple mornings in there and then hop to different parks later and see the nighttime shows, get dinner there and stuff like that. So I think it just lets you do kind of maybe your lower ranked parks more often. So for, I'm using Animal Kingdom in this example, but maybe it's Epcot, maybe it's, something else where you would normally only give it maybe one day, or maybe if it's a 4-day trip, maybe you'd skip it. Now you can bring that park into play because you can go somewhere else in the evening.
Let me take my dinner properly rated and apply to Animal Kingdom because this is an excellent point. Tusker House is probably the best character meal you can have on property. That's a buffet that has a little bit for everybody, and you want to see the Fab Five. You can do your Magic Kingdom in the morning. You can do whatever other parks you do in the morning, and you have like a half a day. You can go into Animal Kingdom for Tusker House just for dinner. Walk around the park in the evening because they have a lot of live entertainment and music and everything else like that. Grab a drink afterwards and meander back to your resort afterwards and not feeling any pressure anywhere else. I think that was maybe another underrated reason for park hopping to Animal Kingdom for dinner. I don't think anybody's ever uttered those combinational words ever, but there you go. There's a reason for that. Moving on to our top 3 this week is traps you fall into that make you do more than you should at Walt Disney World, and it's basically creating the anti-vacation and a vacation, things that we've been stressing quite a bit in today and in our post-trip synopsis from December. So, how do you want to do this, Phil? You want to do rattle off all 3? Do you want to go one for one?
Why don't you rattle off your 3? Because I know you put yours in first, and you definitely probably took some of the ones I would have said.
So basically the premise is things that you can do at Disney World that force you to do more than you really kind of want to because you feel like you need to get value or use your time or you just hate being idle. One is Genie Plus greed, right? So this factors in twice, 2 different ways. One, the sunk cost fallacy. I've bought Genie Plus. I need to use it. So therefore, instead of using it for a handful of rides and relaxing through the day, and if my wife can hear me right now, she'd be nodding her head, pointing at me. Or you'd be like, I got the next one. And you just start ping-ponging across the park. You don't have time to relax. You're just like, I get to the next one. I got to get to the next one. Let's hurry up. Let's go. And or the fact that you weren't expecting to buy it, but you do buy it, and all of a sudden your day where you're just going to have a relaxing day, like your Epcot day, and all of a sudden you got more stuff to do, and then you're like, all right, let's go. And so Genie Plus is the greed aspect of it with the Uber planner, like the both of us, or the person that likes to get the most money benefit for their buck after they spent it, could potentially do 20 to 40% more than they were expecting that day at a high pace. That can, I wouldn't say ruins your vacation, but just exhausts you more.
Yeah.
The second one is buying hoppers. So you've planned out your vacation. You weren't going to spend the money on hoppers. You plan out, all your different days, and then all of a sudden you hear 2 handsome men on a podcast talking about different ways you can use hoppers to park hop. You're like, let me add hoppers to my vacation. Hoppers now force you to say, look, I spent, like $20 to $40 per ticket more per day to be able to hop. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, I was going to go to Animal Kingdom in the morning, but now I can go somewhere else. So instead of going to Animal Kingdom and going back to our resort and relax for the evening, because that's all we could do, all of a sudden now you're shoving your face into Magic Kingdom to watch Happily Ever After because you can. And that might force the pace of your vacation to the next level where, it's now no longer a vacation and a vacation. And of course, traps that you could fall into is early morning entry. The only place where I don't think this is a trap is Magic Kingdom, because Magic Kingdom, you can actually get a lot done. Places like Animal Kingdom, you can get a lot done in early morning entry, but that means you just can leave the park earlier because everything's done rather than using all of your time wisely. So I think Animal Kingdom is a trap because you can do that throughout the day and not miss anything. Epcot, I think that's a trap. I think you get one extra ride done during a day, or it costs you maybe 40 minutes in a line somewhere. And then Hollywood Studios, I think it's a bust. I think you're not getting Rise, you're not getting Slinky. Maybe you're doing Tower Terror Rock and Roller Coaster extra when you might not necessarily have done that at Rope Drop. Or early morning entry, I should say. So those are my 3 ways you can, I don't want to say ruin your vacation, but force you to do more than you were expecting and expend extra energy and stress. What are your top 3 reasons, Phil?
Yep. So my first one was that you book too many ADRs, that there's so many, places that are like your classics. You want to do every trip, and then you always want to add new ones. I mean, even mine, we just went through that. I'm only, I have 2 main ones, but there's definitely a lot of others that we considered. And we'll have an evening free movie. We should book something there and that sort of thing. And next thing you know, you're running from place to place to get to the ADR just because they sound good and you want to do that.
And your credit card's getting heavier and heavier.
The next one I put was resort hopping and visiting. And it's kind of for similar things where rather than just spending time at your resort and relaxing at the pool there and stuff like that and kind of enjoying that, you're like, oh, but I want to, I want to check out Wilderness Lodge and I want to, go to the Poly and do stuff there. And like, it's that, I guess it's kind of like FOMO. I want to see like, what am I missing out by like not checking out that? And I like all the vibes of all these different resorts. And I want to see them. And I'm not saying like never do like a monorail tour or something like that, but it's easy to be like, oh, and I want to see this one. And let's take a break and take the Skyliner over to this like hotel and eat there or something like it can just become too much if you want to kind of see all the hotels and stuff like that.
I would say if you're going to do resort hopping, have that be like the day off or a thing that you do for the day where that is your activity. You're checking places out. Don't try to add resort hopping before you go to a park or if it's a park day, that type of thing. I'm totally with you on that one.
Yep. And then the second one I put in, this is definitely something we fall victim to, is skipping scheduled breaks.
Yes.
Like, oh, yeah, we're absolutely going to do a midday break here. 2 p.m. comes, you're like, maybe we'll just wander around World Showcase and find some shade or something like that. Because, I mean, there is the travel time and you kind of play that in your head. And I don't know, but I think like just what we talked about, I have to force myself to we're going to sleep in this morning. We're definitely taking this midday break, whatever it is. Mm-hmm. It's really easy to just skip those, but I think you pay for it later.
I skipped our midday break on one of our Epcot days on a December trip. I didn't end up regretting it from a tired or function. We had just a fun day. It just naturally got away from us, right?
Yep.
And the fact that it got away from us, my wife wasn't reminding me like we were supposed to go back to the hotel and whatever. She was like, let's keep going. We're having fun. Let's go. I was very impressed with that. But when we are sitting at a resort on the other days, we're like, this is nice. We can talk about our evening, what we want to do. Like the downtime allows you, and I've been saying this since day one of this podcast, downtime allows you to decompress from what you're doing and actually adds the hype and the excitement of what you're doing that evening or the next day or whatever it tends to be. Like talking about your day and decompressing and reviewing everything that you've done has a high amount of value that I think people forget that like it requires you to sit down and smell the roses, not at a park, but we're somewhere you can kind of kick your shoes off and sit back.
Yep.
All right. Are we going to do we're over an hour at this point, Phil. Are we going to save the DBC engagement?
Yeah, it's not time sensitive. So why don't we save it till next week? Because we got some good response and I don't want to shortchange it by like rushing through it.
Okay. So I think what we're going to do is we'll review. You want to review 2 next week and give people something to talk about this week?
Yeah.
Because I think the DBC engagement that we're going to do this for this week
is more time sensitive or time relevant.
So this week, where our engagement topic is: do the Genie Plus changes affect the way you plan Walt Disney World? And I think that came evident with your mental crisis for this week about what you're going to do. How does that affect the way you think about Disney? Now, it might not be specifically like, oh, I might change what park day it is, but does it alter your view of how Disney does business? This is like, this is the last straw. I'm canceling my trip from 2024. That might be a little bit drastic, but do you start thinking about this? Like, again, where are all these tiny cracks? Or maybe this bolsters you. Like, this is great. Like, I forget who it was. I can't remember if it was on Discord or the forums. We're like, this is awesome. I'm going to buy more Genie Plus because normally I wouldn't. This gives me the opportunity to buy an Animal Kingdom and an Epcot, that type of thing. So what are your thoughts basically on Genie Plus, but specifically, how would this alter the way you do your business at the World? So we're going to leave it at that. Phil, anything that I forgot, or are we good for this evening?
I think we are good. Let's wrap it up.
All right, boys and girls, thank you for listening and watching, wherever that might be. Remember to like and subscribe wherever you might do. Please join Discord. I should be like screaming at you guys throughout the show. We got new members. Please come in, join. If you can't find our channel inside the Discord where we're talking about the engagement, if you haven't seen the event pop up with a link to the actual channel, go to the Our Content forum, and underneath that, you'll find the DBC pod under Our Content. Our Content is literally the title of the forum. There's a bunch of different podcasts on there that the authors kind of post questions about. So make sure you hop in there, join the engagement topic. And if you can't find it, go to the general conversation, general chat area, say, hey, where is that? And somebody will definitely link it for you. So please join in the conversation. For those that are joining and just reading, please say hello. There's plenty of you that join and kind of all of a sudden after 3 months, they're like, just jump in the conversation. I'm like, didn't you join 3 months ago? What's happening? Come on, we're friendly people. So take a dive in, say hello. We love new friends. That being said, everybody, thank you very much. Have a great week, and we'll see you.
Take care, everyone.